Hi, my name is Grace Shalom Hopkins, and welcome to another episode of Spin Weekly, and it's Tour de Fleece week! Woo! So, this is the first of a few videos for Tour de Fleece that I made in collaboration with Amanda of Amara Moon Fiber Arts. You can find links down below to her shop, and also I have direct linked to the inspiration post. We trolled the internet for some vintage bicycle advertisements that featured yellow, which is a Tour de Fleece color. She kindly informed me that's because in Tour de France the leader is wearing yellow. I did not do that. This is the first time I participated in Tour de Fleece in any capacity, even though I'm not actually spinning in the Tour de Fleece itself. So I'm a newbie for all these things. But for those of you who are veterans, welcome back. For those of you who are new, I'm right there with you. So first of all, before we kick off, I want to know, what are you guys doing for Tour de Fleece? Tell me your goals, your thoughts. Why are you participating? What are you most excited about? Whatever you want to share with me and each other about Tour de Fleece. I'm really curious to take a peek into the motivation and experience of Tour de Fleece because, like I said, I have never participated in any capacity previously, and I've been in the spinning community for 10 years now. So, yeah. Anyhow, so I decided to take this roving that Amanda dyed up, of course inspired by this advertisement that we found, which actually, ironically, even though we were looking at vintage advertisements, we found this bamboo bicycle poster, which is for a modern company. It's a modern advertisement poster that's inspired by Mucha. So we ended up choosing a modern take on a turn-of-the-century concept, but, anyway. So she spun this really interesting colorway, and I noticed that in addition to being in blocks of color, she dyes really nuanced. So each block has several different shades in it, which is really beautiful. And so I wanted to highlight that by not combing or carding, which is my usual go-to. Generally speaking, my first step is to take the thing apart and then make something completely new, right? You know me. So in my head, I was thinking I could do add-ins, but there's already silk and bamboo in there, so I didn't really want to do that. I didn't want to disrupt the colorway. And then I was concerned I wouldn't have a good supporting color, all these different, it just didn't pan out to go my usual route. So then I ran a poll on Instagram about what people thought I should do with it, and a ton of people said fractal. Now, my fractal videos are my most popular videos. People love to see me spin fractals, and I think the reason why that is because fractal is a really interesting technique that people are very familiar with. It's one of the more popular wild techniques. So, it's not so far out there that people don't know the keyword to search for it. Oh, you know what I mean? So I liked the idea of going with something that's so well known, but then I didn't want to just spin a fractal because I have several fractal videos on my channel. I'll link some of them down below. I have a couple of regular fractals. I did a gradient fractal, which remains one of my favorite yarns ever. I actually knit some mittens up with it, and you'll see those later on. I've already filmed the video, but I'm saving it for a rainy day. But anyhow, all that to say, I wanted to play with fractal, but I wanted to do something unexpected. So I'd already done a gradient fractal. So I thought, what is the technique that I'd use the least often that needs to be brought back? And so I really thought of a single. I don't use singles very often because I rely really heavily on plying to do a lot of the color work with me. So then I thought, I know you can do multi-plied fractals, like a 3-ply fractal or a 4-ply fractal, but how do you do a single fractal? So I sat down with my piece of paper and I kind of sketched it out, how it would work, and I was noodling and I figured out how I was going to do it, and I came up with 2 possible problems. So one is if the two sections that I was being held together, like co-drafting, weren't similarly floofy, I could get patchiness. So like a fractal polka dot, which is not what I was going for. And two, because I would be co-drafting, I would have to make sure that the two pieces were the same length, and that could be challenging to predict. So I actually ended up with one whole extra hunk of the secondary color. I think of it as like the whole color strip and then the tiny secondary colors. Because you know when you do a fractal, you have the big one, the unsplit half, and then the split half, and then you typically apply those together, right? Well, I had one extra of these. So the first thing I did was I split the roving in half because it was mirrored on both sides. So to make it more manageable, I split it in half in the center of that double wide color. So there was like two oranges, but they were double wide. There was nothing in between them because they were folded. Yes, I split it there. Hopefully you could hear that. My mic was like way over there. So then I set one of those aside and split the one piece that I had, the one half, in half. So I was working with fourth pieces rather than half pieces, and that made this co-drafting a lot more manageable. So I strongly recommend that. I don't think I could have done it so successfully with half pieces instead of whole pieces. Okay, so what I did was I split them in half, like I said. Bean keeps coming to knock on my door. That's why I'm kind of scatterbrained. And then I split the second half. You'll see this all in the video more clearly. So we got the hole here. I've wrapped that up into a ball and set it aside. And then I split this one several ways with the grain. So I got like little ball, little ball, little ball, little ball, little ball. And they look like this. So I did that to both sections. So I've got two unsplit halves and then set that aside. Duk, 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 duk. And that's the one we're working on now. So this big unsplit, we've rolled it up and set it aside, right? Okay, so now traditionally, you're gonna spin these in two plies, right? You spin the little ones end to end all the way down, and then you spin this one all the way down end to end, and then you ply them together. We're not doing that this time. So this one up here, we're gonna draft it out as thinly as humanly possible. Now I found that it was easiest to do this in sections and then daisy chain braid it up as I went, because it ended up being the braided portion, and you'll see this in the film tomorrow, but the braided portion ended up reaching the entire length of my entire house. So if I hadn't have braided it up, it would have been, there's no way I could have kept it straight, right? So the braiding also keeps the pieces together and kind of fuses them a little bit. As you braid it up, it kind of mildly felts it, so that way they stick together and draft more easily together. So anyway, don't try this without doing some kind of braiding. It would be a hot, hot mess. So anyhow, so what I did, and again, you'll see this in the video, but this is the prep video. I'm splitting these up into several different videos so I can go really deep with you. So I drafted out usually one color section, and then these little guys, I opened them up, and I didn't draft them, I just opened them like this, which actually shortens the overall length a little bit, which is nice. And then I laid it on top. So once I had a color section of the big piece drafted real thin, ideally to match the diameter of this thing. And of course, these pieces are going to vary in diameter because I'm not perfect. I just split it the way the fiber wanted to split, right? So try and get them to be the same width, so that way they'll co-draft nicely. So once you've got it all laid out, then you chain it up, and then you draft another section, and then lay it on top and chain it up. And I was getting about 2 of these per color section. So that was pretty cool. And you'll get more or less depending on how many small pieces you split. I tend to like to split really, really small pieces because I like a lot of really quick repeats. So it depends on your preference, your project, whatever it is you're doing. So maybe if you're doing like a giant bedspread, you might not want such tiny repeats because you wouldn't even get all the way across the length before you'd have a new repeat, and that wouldn't be very cool. So when I spun it, I unchained a little bit, and I actually put my finger in the chain loop, and that helped me from pulling too far up one side. So I will talk more about the actual technique I used to spin it, but there was a bit of a trick to the co-drafting process. But this is the end yarn, and you will get a closer up view of it later. But there you go. That's what it looks like. So I am super thrilled. I want to know about your reasonings to participate in Tour de Fleece. Like I said at the beginning, I cannot wait to show you the spin. I cannot wait to show you the prep. Everything is just so exciting. All right, so all of that being said, if you are a Patreon person, you're going to get a voiceover in addition to all of that explaining I just did. If you're a YouTube person only, welcome to the music video of that prep. Now you're gonna see all the things that I just explained going on. But if you're a Patreon person, you get to hear me voiceover as I'm doing it. So if you'd like to become a Patreon patron, follow the links down below. So I will meet you on the other side. I hope you found that to be really informative. Is your mind blown? I hope so. This technique really blew my mind, and I can't wait to try it several more times in several different ways. There's tons of possibilities here, but we'll talk more about that later. So if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit the like button and absolutely hit the subscribe button so you'll know when I put the next video, which will be the spinning of this video. I'll spin this video right round. No, the spinning of this yarn that we just prepped. And yes, don't forget to check out Amara Moon Fiber Arts. She collaborated with me on this, and I will see you next time. Bye!